All right, welcome back. Today we're jumping into a huge topic, something that feels like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie but is becoming very, very real. As we're looking at 2026, we've got to ask, are quantum computers actually a threat to Bitcoin and Ethereum? Let's get into it.
So let's just cut to the chase, right? The big question. Can some super powerful quantum computer just steal your Bitcoin? Can it just reach into your wallet and poof, it's gone? Well, the answer, it's complicated. It really comes down to a high-stakes cryptographic arms race that's already underway.
Okay, so before we talk about breaking the lock, we need to understand the lock itself, right? We're talking about the system that's protecting literally trillions of dollars in crypto. And look, it's been rock solid for more than a decade. But as we're about to see, every lock, no matter how strong, has a potential key.
So at the very core of all crypto security, you have this idea called public key cryptography. Now, the best way to think about it is like a super secure mailbox. Your Bitcoin address, that's the mailbox. Anyone in the world can see the mail slot, that's your public key, and they can use it to send you crypto. But, and this is the crucial part, only you have the private key to actually open that box and get what's inside.
And this specific type of lock, the one that Bitcoin and Ethereum both use, has a name. It's called ECDSA. Yeah, the elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. The whole reason it's so secure is because it's based on a math problem that's so ridiculously hard that our best supercomputers would literally need thousands of years to crack it. It's the absolute bedrock of their security.
So you might be thinking, okay, thousands of years, we're safe. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is a completely new kind of computer, one that doesn't play by the same rules at all. Think of it like a master key, a key that can unlock systems like ECDSA with, frankly, terrifying speed.
And look, this chart right here really puts it into perspective. The scale of this threat is just mind-blowing. A task that is for all practical purposes impossible for a classical supercomputer, a quantum computer could theoretically do it in a matter of hours. We're not talking about a small improvement here. This is a total game changer.
And the specific tool, the master key that makes this all possible, is called Shor's algorithm. And, what's wild is that this isn't new. It was discovered way back in 1994. It's basically a set of instructions designed perfectly for a quantum computer. Its whole job is to solve the exact math problem that protects ECDSA. It lets an attacker figure out your private key just by looking at your public one.
There's a quote from a user on Reddit that just cuts right through the noise. They said a powerful enough quantum computer running Shor's algorithm turns the security of ECDSA into a joke. And that's really it. It doesn't just weaken the encryption, it makes it totally useless. For a quantum computer, that lock we talked about, it might as well not even be there. Okay, so this all sounds pretty scary, I get it. But it all hinges on one massive if. The existence of a sufficiently powerful quantum computer. So the big question becomes, when is this Q-Day actually going to happen? Well, this is where things get really debatable.
I mean, just look at this. The predictions are all over the place. You've got some analysts saying it could be just a few years away. Vitalik Buterin from Ethereum, he gives it a 20% shot by 2030. The general institutional consensus kind of lands in that 10 to 20-year window. And then you have the cautious folks like Adam Back pushing it out to maybe 20, even 40 years.
And then there are the prediction markets. This is where people are putting real money on the line, betting on when this will happen. And as of early 2026, they're pricing in a nearly 40% chance of a breakthrough by 2030 and a 50-50 shot by 2035. So clearly there are a lot of people betting this is coming sooner, not later.
But, and this is the really critical twist in this whole story, even if the people who say we have decades are right, the danger isn't decades away. The danger starts today.
Yeah, it's a concept known as harvest now, decrypt later. Think about it. Bad actors, maybe even governments, are potentially recording huge amounts of encrypted data right now. Blockchain transactions, everything. They can't break it today, sure, but they're stockpiling it. They're just waiting for the day they get that quantum key to unlock it all. And that makes this a very immediate, very real problem.
Okay, so with that harvest now threat hanging over our heads, let's get specific. Where are the weak spots? Where are Bitcoin and Ethereum most vulnerable? So for Bitcoin, it's pretty startling. Roughly a quarter of the entire supply is sitting in addresses where the public keys are already out there, permanently exposed on the blockchain. These are the absolute prime targets for a harvest now, decrypt later attack. The other 75% is safer, yeah,
but it's not totally immune.
And to put a hard number on that, we are talking about more than 4 million Bitcoin. At today's prices, that is hundreds of billions of dollars just sitting there in wallets that are basically already on a quantum attacker's future hit list.
So what kind of addresses are we talking about? Well, first, you've got the really old legacy addresses, like the one Satoshi used, which just expose the public keys by default. Then you have any modern address that's been reused. And here's the kicker. Every single transaction is vulnerable for the roughly 10 minutes it's sitting in the mempool, waiting to be confirmed. That's a huge window of opportunity. Now you'd think fixing this would be straightforward, but it's not a simple patch for these networks. They face totally different problems. For Bitcoin, the challenge is really political. Its governance is slow, it's conservative, and getting everyone to agree on a huge upgrade, a hard fork, is a massive social challenge. Ethereum, on the other hand, is a bit more nimble with governance, but it runs into a technical wall. These new quantum-resistant signatures are way bigger, and that could seriously bloat the blockchain and crank up transaction fees.
But here's the good news. The world's cryptographers aren't just sitting around waiting for this to happen. No way. They've been working on the solution for years, building a brand new kind of shield, one designed to stand up to attacks from both the computers of today and the quantum computers of tomorrow.
And that solution is called post-quantum cryptography, or PQC. It's a whole new family of algorithms. They're built on completely different types of math problems, ones that we believe are just as hard for quantum computers as they are for classical ones. Essentially, we're building a new, much more complex lock.
And this isn't just some theory on a whiteboard. The US Government Standards Agency, NIST, has been running this huge global competition for years to find the absolute best PQC algorithms. They've already standardized the first batch, with cool names like crystals to lithium. So the tools to build this quantum shield, they're ready to go.
But having the tools is one thing. Actually installing them across these massive decentralized networks with trillions of dollars on the line, that's a whole other ballgame. And this is the final and maybe the biggest challenge of all, the race to upgrade.
Let's be honest, it's a migration nightmare. First, you've got to get the whole community to agree on a hard fork, which is always contentious. Then you have to deal with the performance hit from these new signatures, which can be like 10 to 100 times larger. And finally, you have to somehow coordinate a mass migration where every single user, every hodler, every institution has to move their funds to a new, quantum-safe address. It's a logistical, technical, and political minefield.
So the path forward is clear, but it is definitely not easy. Step 1, standardizing the algorithms. That's mostly done. Step 2, building out public testnets. That's happening right now. But steps 3 and 4, achieving that community consensus and then actually pulling the trigger on the upgrade, those are the giant mountains we still have to climb.
And this quote really just nails the central tension of the moment. The quantum clock is ticking. Most of crypto is still hitting snooze. The threat is real, the timeline is murky, but the sense of urgency across the whole crypto space, well, it doesn't quite seem to match the scale of the challenge just yet.
So, let's tie this all together. What are the key things you need to remember? First, the quantum threat to crypto is not hype. It is real, and it's based on proven math. Second, the most immediate danger is that harvest now, decrypt later attack. Third, quantum-resistant solutions are here, but the biggest challenge by far is migrating the actual networks. And finally, the race is on. We have to upgrade before a quantum computer can break the code.
And that really leaves us with a big question for you. What do you think? Should the crypto world be scrambling to prepare for this quantum era right now? Or is it still too early to panic? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And of course, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives like this one.